So Rings of Power, thankfully, is a thing of the past. It's something that we haven't talked about for a very long time because it's been out of the news, relatively anyway. I mean, there has been a couple iterations here and there of articles popping up about Rings of Power, but for the most part, it's been out of the news, and stuff like Velma has taken over, stuff like Witcher Blood Origin had took over for a while. So Rings of Power has been out of the news, but now we have Rings of Power back in the news, and the reason why we do is because the boss, Jennifer Salke, over at Rings of Power, just recently finally responded to Warner Brothers announcing their own Lord of the Rings movies. Now, as you guys are aware, Lord of the Rings is going to be having new movies coming out from Warner Brothers. I heavily doubt they're going to be any good, but obviously I hope I'm wrong. But regarding Rings of Power, of course we know Rings of Power was absolutely trash. Jennifer Salke basically just self-inserted herself into the show as Galadriel. I mean, it's basically almost a one-to-one comparison, but apparently she has now finally responded. So we have an article from good old CBR.com, and it says Rings of Power boss responds to the Warner Brothers' new Lord of the Rings movies. Amazon Studios CEO Jennifer Salke comments on the potential impact of Warner Brothers' new Lord of the Rings movies on the Rings of Power. Now, I can only imagine, again, I can only imagine, seeing these pictures, they bring so many bad memories, but they also bring great memories too, because they helped me find my original audience, of which Velma then capitalized on and doubled or tripled that audience from there. But Rings of Power, it's so bad. It's so bad. I don't want to say I can't see how Warner Brothers can top that, because last time I said that, The Witcher Blood Origin came out and completely thrashed Rings of Power in terms of how terrible it was. So I'm not going to go out there and jinx myself, but I can only imagine just how terrible Warner Brothers is going to make their movies. Hopefully, like I said, I am wrong, but I don't know what she's really going to be able to say about this whole ordeal. But let's check it out. So it says Amazon Studios CEO Jennifer Salke recently addressed how Warner Brothers' new Middle Earth movies will affect The Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power. Salke responded to the news that Warner Brothers has several Lord of the Rings projects in development during an interview with Variety. We're extremely proud that the Rings of Power and invested long term, she said, so we definitely think there's enough fan love to sustain ours. I can't even say that with a straight face. To sustain ours for a long time. What? What fan love? You really think you have fan love for the Rings of Power? I can't. I can't. There's no way she said that. There's no, guys, come on. Come on. You got to be trolling me. There's no way that she said that they believe that there's enough fan love to sustain themselves for a long time. I just don't believe she really said that. I think this article is a lie. There's no way. Warner Brothers and New Line Media closed a deal with Embracer Group AB in February of 2023 to develop movies inspired by author J.R.R. Tolkien's most well-known works, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It's currently unclear which characters and events Warner Brothers' new Lord of the Rings productions will adapt. That said, a joint press statement by Warner Brothers co-chairs and co-CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi indicated that the studio isn't interested in remaking Peter Jackson's previous big screen adaptations of Tolkien's books. Instead, the forthcoming features will apparently mine previously unexplored corners of the Middle-earth mythos for inspiration. Warner Brothers is also keeping Jackson and his writing partners Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens in the loop regarding the franchise's future. Now, again, I don't know if these movies are going to be any good. I really don't. I'm very skeptical about anything that's coming out from the Warner Brothers sector or anywhere for that matter. I mean, it's Hollywood still at the end of the day. But I do hope that, given that it's a movie format, that it'll be better than the Rings of Power. Because you got to remember, guys, Rings of Power episodes were about 1 hour each, and it was 8 episodes. We got 8 hours. 8 hours of nonsense that went absolutely nowhere, that was presented in such a terrible way, that had all the typical woke tropes that make people turn their brains off and say, you know what, I just can't deal with this anymore. There was a lot of that in the Rings of Power. Now, granted, now with a movie, what are you talking about? 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours max for a Lord of the Rings movie, which is very long for a movie. But still, you're talking about almost 1/3 of the hourship compared to Rings of Power's entire season. So hopefully, with that in mind, there won't be enough time for them to dick around, basically, and try to get to the point and make something that's good. Now, if Peter Jackson is actually involved, and I mean genuinely involved, I don't just mean like, regarded to or spoken to. I mean, is he actually actively involved? If he is, there might be hope that the movies will be somewhat good. There is hope. Whether I believe that or not remains to be seen. We don't know enough from the announcement yet. We know, honestly, we know basically nothing. So there's nothing out there for me to judge at this point. So it's pretty much up in the air. But still, given that a lot of Warner Brothers just haven't earned the benefit of the doubt lately, I just don't have much faith in what they're going to be able to produce. So it says the Rings of Power's 5-season plan. I still want to see how that goes. Jackson's involvement with Warner Brothers' Lord of the Rings projects is notable, not least because the Oscar-winning filmmaker didn't participate in the production of the Rings of Power. Jackson was originally set to provide feedback to co-showrunners Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne on the scripts for the Prime Video series' first season. However, the pair ultimately forged ahead without his input. McKay and Payne have since confirmed that they have already developed a 5-season roadmap for the Rings of Power that builds towards a very specific and clear endpoint. Yeah, I really don't believe that that's the case, considering how terrible they handled the first 8 episodes. It really, like, come on, just look at what this is. Not even, dude, this is not Lord of the Rings, man. This is not Lord of the Rings. The armor is terrible. One thing I do hope, please, Warner Brothers, is take the time to do your presentation right. What they did in this show and the presentation that they did for the characters, especially the Numenorians, especially the elves, fuck the race swapping with the elves, even though that's lazy and ridiculous in terms of J.R.R. Tolkien's mythos. Fuck all that. The presentation for them was terrible. It was completely out of the field. It never made any sense. The elves were all just basically humans with sharp ears. The Numenorians were basically regular humans. They were not the mega humans that they were in the books. They were 8 feet, 9 feet tall and could kick anybody's ass. These were regular humanoids. They were just regular people walking around in bullshit leather armor that tried to pass off as chainmail or any sort of mail for that matter. It was terrible presentation. And from a fantasy standpoint, you have to pay attention to your presentation. The whole point of building a mythos, the whole point of building a world like J.R.R. Tolkien built is because presentation is key. It's supposed to help you get out of what's normal, right? What's considered normal life, normal world. It's supposed to get you out of that and bring you into the fantasy mythos. And if you cannot accomplish that, you're never going to tell a fantasy story properly. It says the showrunners remain tight-lipped regarding what's in store for fans in the Rings of Power remaining seasons, although they recently hinted that the story will include several previously unseen vistas. One of the first conversations we had with Amazon about this is the feeling that Tolkien's world was much vaster than the limited geography traversed in the Lord of the Rings books and in The Hobbit, McKay said, and that there are great islands to the west in Numenor at this time. There's Valinor even further west, and then there's east, an entire continent, ruined, that's never been visited and never explored. All 8 episodes, blah, blah, blah. So, listen, I really don't have any faith in Amazon for sure. I know season 2 is going to be trash, and we're going to have plenty of fun making fun of season 2, so I hope you join me for that. But still, at the end of the day, I don't know if I have any faith in Warner Brothers either. You have people who have other agendas that are not focused on telling a good story. And unfortunately, you can talk about David Zaslav all you want. You can talk about how he's in it for the money, how he's not someone who's going to want to lose money. But he's just one man. Peter Jackson is just one man. They are surrounded by people who have other ideologies that they're constantly fighting against 24/7 while they are in the positions they are in. So unfortunately for them, they're going to have to give and take at some point. And unfortunately, what they decide to give on is going to really ruin the episodes for me. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.